Okay, like always, I'm just going to give it maybe a minute. It's going to be a little bit of a power round today. I've got a decent amount of bloods consults, so but I'm just going to give people like 30 seconds to get involved. As I said, like always, I'm much appreciative of people taking time out of their day to listen to me speak. And obviously what I'm going to touch on today is the whole aspect. I'm going to try and not go between Facebook over here and Instagram over here, okay? People on Facebook, they're going to have to put up with my Billy Ray Cyrus sort of flanks going on here, okay? So what I'm going to touch on today is the aspect of reverse dieting. Okay. Now, a lot of people are going to associate this, from sort of like competition sort of realms, and like I just really want to talk about the fact that I actually use it as a medicinal tool. Okay, and also I've got to shout out the people that really brought this sort of concept to the fore. Like, never gonna lay credit for something that I had zero involvement in. Yeah, okay. So people like Dr. Lane Norton really brought the whole concept of reverse dieting. Really to the fore, as I said. Yeah, okay. So I've got to give credit there. Yeah, okay, because I really use it as a medicinal tool. Okay, to help people reverse a lot of their health issues. Okay, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more. Okay. But I want to talk about these sort of aspects of the benefits of being in a calorie deficit and the benefits of under eating, because it's really important that I establish that I'm not against calorie deficits. Okay, to help with things like insulin sensitivity, to help with leptin sensitivity. Okay, so to help with aspects of weight loss. Okay, I'm not disputing this. Being in a calorie deficit, moving more. Okay, maybe I could dispute how hard you might need to work when you're in a severe calorie deficit, okay? But I'm not disputing that you move more and then you go into a calorie deficit, that it's going to actually help with these aspects, okay? And there's other advantages to being in a calorie deficit, okay? It's actually going to help to reduce the inflammatory load. Now, especially if you've got a lot of things like food sensitivities, you don't rotate your foods enough, okay? And that means you're responding quite poorly to a lot of the protein molecules and the fiber molecules, okay? And so, not eating as much and not putting as much food in your body is definitely going to help to reduce that inflammatory load, yeah, okay? Because as I've stated, if there's too much pro-inflammatory activity taking place in the body, then the too much inflammation can actually cause damage and blunten the brush borders, and that's going to affect your ability to release enzymes to help you break down macromolecules like glucose, amino acids, and lipids, yeah, okay? There's also a benefit to helping with detoxification, yeah, okay? And there's also an aspect where it does actually help with the gastrointestinal lining. The particular area of the gastrointestinal lining is the loose connective tissue underneath the epithelium. It's called the lamina propria, and within there, okay, you've got GALT, you've got gut-associated lymphoid tissue, and that actually helps with B cells. So it helps with antigen and antibody response. Yeah, okay. So there's advantages there, okay. I'm not disputing that, but guess what? There's also advantages to eating more, okay. And let's talk about some of those advantages, okay. To just getting more food into your body, okay. Well, it actually helps with things like protein synthesis, okay. You need 4 grams of leucine to help with protein synthesis. Not going to really get into this realms, okay, but it's actually going to help with things like metabolic rate, okay, so it's going to actually help with energy, okay. I mean, these things are sort of no-brainers, yeah, okay. Now, also cognition. I've talked about this before. Yes, being in a calorie deficit is going to help with things like ketones, so supplying an alternative fuel source for the brain, okay. But also there's benefits to eating more, because then you're getting more things like saturated fat. You're getting more things like amino acids, yeah, okay, that actually help with cognition, our ability to handle stress, okay, and then you're actually getting minerals that actually help with electrolyte balance in the brain and so forth. So there's huge benefits from a cognition perspective, yeah, okay. And then there's the aspects of helping with sex drive, Okay, like a fundamental reason to why your sex drive and your libido might be down, okay, is because you've been in a calorie deficit and you've been malnourished and under eating for too long a period of time. Okay, like let's understand when it comes to your steroidal hormones. Okay, so things like progesterone and estrogen. Okay, things like testosterone, DHEA. Okay, and even things like cortisol. Okay, aldosterone and so forth. Yeah. Okay, well you need the building blocks. Okay, like I say this all the time, it's you don't have Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory in there. Yeah, okay, like it's not the Oompa Loompas like churning out an endless supply of testosterone and DHEA and so forth. Yeah, okay, it's not like David Blaine. It's not like a magic trick. Yeah, okay, you've got to give the body the building blocks that it requires to produce these things. And then the one thing is, if you've been in a massive calorie deficit for an extreme long period of time, are you really receiving enough of these building blocks to help with these things? Okay, and that's the big thing. Okay, so you might actually see that your steroidal hormones, yeah, okay, the output of these hormones actually decreases. Okay, and so your sex hormones, okay, and things like your libido just crash. Yeah, okay, because look at what's the building blocks that I need for these things. Yes, it's things like pantothenic acid, vitamin B5, acetyl coenzyme A, okay, dietary fats, yeah, okay. So we need things like cholesterol, okay. So these things are so vital as a building block, okay. And if I've been in a calorie deficit for an extreme long period of time, this can really come at a cost to things like your sex hormones, okay. So that's one aspect, yeah, okay. And then another aspect, and so this will also affect things like fertility as well, yeah, okay. And then another aspect is a big player in your metabolism, and that's your thyroid. Okay? And so we've got all these different thyroid hormones. You've got T1, T2, T3, which is your more bioavailable thyroid hormone, okay? And T4, okay? And essentially it's made up of 2 tyrosine molecules, okay? It's basically amino acid, yeah, okay? And, it's an essential amino acid we've got to get out of our food, okay? And we get it from like phenylalanine. I'm not necessarily going to go further into this realms, and that gets converted to tyrosine. Okay, and then we can convert the tyrosine, and that actually helps with thyroid hormone, but also understand we need the tyrosine for things like L-DOPA, dopamine. So what happens if I'm stressed a lot? Okay, you got to understand, when you're stressed, okay, and there's like a lot of stress response, HPA dysfunction, okay, well, the stress response, because it just comes down to life or death and survival, okay, that's going to take priority, okay, and that can come at a cost to things like your thyroid, okay. And the role of your thyroid, okay, is to basically take calories and convert that into energy. I mean, obviously there's more than that, yeah, okay? But if I look at your more bioavailable thyroid hormone, okay, T3, okay, some of the roles of that is actually to help with things like hydrochloric acid and pepsin production. So this is to do with your stomach acid and your ability to break down things like protein, okay, and to actually help with neurotransmitter balance, to actually help with blood sugar management, regulation, okay? So there's a whole array of benefits, okay? And it really helps with things like thermogenesis and your thermostat, okay? But once again, like you got to have the building blocks for this, okay? I'm going to touch on a couple of aspects here, okay? I'm not going to go too far into the realms to do with the thyroid, yeah, okay? But there was actually like a research, okay? I can't actually remember the date on it. I'm just using this as an example. I just want to clarify that, yeah, okay? And they actually had a group of men, yeah, okay? And the group of men, their base metabolic rate was sitting at about 3,400, okay? And I'll get to a little bit of base metabolic rate and how we're potentially calculating that incorrectly from my perspective, yeah, okay? And how that can really change, okay, according to what's going on in your body and so forth, yeah, okay? And I'm going to give you a few calculations to really how that might be better calculated, yeah, okay? But basically they had a base metabolic rate, okay? And base metabolic rate is what you require for like basic functions. So let's get that one straight, okay? I'm not talking about resting metabolic rate here, okay? So the base metabolic rate was sitting about 3,400, and essentially what they did is they decreased their calories by about 50%. So they dropped them to about 1,700, and they sat back and just recorded some of the behavioral traits and some of the things that happened. And there was, of course, okay, over a period of time, there was a severe decrease in thyroid hormones, okay, especially things like T3. And so there was knock-on effects to things like hydrochloric acid and pepsine, their ability to break down protein, all these things that I already talked about, but also issues with like neurotransmitter balance as well. And what they actually noticed, there was increased instances of, depression, anxiety, okay, even suicidal tendencies, okay? Now, I can only speak from my experience with dealing with a lot of people, okay? But people who've been sitting in severe calorie deficits and malnourished for a long period of time, they're definitely displaying a lot of those neurological complications, okay? And you've got to bear in mind, this was for men, okay? And so when it comes to battle of the sexes, okay, I'm just going to say, from my perspective, okay, when it comes to, intermittent fasting, dropping your calories quite extreme, okay, men win, okay? And so the complexity of female hormones and modern society, okay, this really doesn't suit females as well. Now, it doesn't mean they can't do fasting, okay, but there's certain types of fasting that I would prefer for women, especially when they're under a lot of stress and so forth, okay? So I want to clarify, we're meant to be going through periods of feast and famine, okay? I'm not disputing that, okay? But it's not famine for the rest of your life, okay? Like, that's just the reality, because I'm dealing with blood markers, and I'm telling you there's a formula for understanding if someone needs to reverse diet, okay? I'm not going to give everything away, but, like people who know me, like you can look at someone's blood markers and go, they're malnourished, yeah, okay, they just don't have enough of the building blocks, they've been in a calorie deficit way too long, okay? And you can see that, and in particular, blood markers. I'm just going to use a couple of examples, like your ferritin, okay? And then people who know about blood markers will go, well, that's a carrier molecule for iron, so it's really a reflection of what's going with your iron. But if you know anything about the blood markers a little bit deeper than that, well, ferritin it's made up of 24 subunits of amino acids. Where do you think those amino acids come from? Once again, are they distributed by the Oompa Loompas? Yeah, okay, so they're not, okay? I'll break the news to you, okay? But basically, okay, you need the amino acids to give you the building blocks for that particular protein molecule. And yes, it actually helps to store excess amounts of iron. It's a carrier molecule for iron, okay? But the reason sometimes you can have such severely low ferritin is you're just malnourished, okay? And I can just see the trends in people's blood markers. Their ferritin is always low, yeah, okay? And then you can see like total protein be consistently low. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that they don't have absorption issues and assimilation issues. They most likely do, okay? Because the reality is, once you start to get thyroid issues, you start to negatively affect your gastrointestinal tract and vice versa, okay? I'm going to talk, and so people need to understand, putting people in severe calorie deficits for a long period of time comes at a consequence to the gastrointestinal lining, and now you've got an individual who is stuck with a gastrointestinal problem. And then the gastrointestinal problem creates more issues with the thyroid. And that's the cycle, yeah, okay? And, I might touch on that a little bit more, yeah, okay? So, or maybe I'm just going to touch on it now, yeah, okay? But basically, I'll give you an example, yeah, okay? So if I've been in a calorie deficit for an extremely long period of time, yeah, okay, there's huge amounts of stress happening in the body, yeah, okay? And that means you can be excessively putting a lot of burden on the HPA axis, and it's HPA dysfunction, hypothalamus, pituitary, and the adrenals, yeah, okay? Now, if there's an influx of like stress hormones and you're producing too much things like corticotropin releasing hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and like these hormones aren't bad, okay? This is a necessary mechanism, okay? But this can send a negative feedback loop to the brain to stop producing so many stress hormones, okay? And we've got to understand that you've also got the HPT axis, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the thyroid, okay? And so essentially what happens is most of the time, if there's this down-regulation, this negative feedback loop, to stop us from producing so many stress hormones in the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary gland, you also downregulate other hormones. And actually when you downregulate other hormones, you'll downregulate things like thyrotropin releasing hormone, it's a messenger hormone, okay? And you'll downregulate TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, a lot of people are going to say that's an iodine trap, but it's just really an anterior pituitary hormone. It's a messenger hormone. The problem is when you downregulate those hormones, they actually help with GALT. They actually help with gut-associated lymphoid tissue, and in that region is where you produce B cells and that's to do with antigen and antibody response, immune response. So now you've compromised this region, okay, and it also compromises your first line of defense in the gastrointestinal lining, okay? And so then I'm more prone to what? Pathogens and microorganisms, okay? So now I've created this issue, okay? And then basically the bacteria starts releasing more byproducts, and that just starts causing more burdening of the HPA axis. You can see this vicious cycle, okay? Now, if I start to get issues with the epithelium and the loose connective tissue, areas like the lamina propria and so forth, yeah, okay? Then basically, if we look at our ability to convert T4 thyroxine into the more bioavailable thyroid hormone T3, yes, a huge proportion of that takes place in the liver, but you got 20% of that conversion of T4 to T3 takes place in the gastrointestinal lining. It's going to be a factor to why you might actually have thyroid issues. So now can you see this like vicious cycle that I'm talking about? It's a vicious cycle, yeah, okay? And I say to people, like, you can have like a metabolism issue, a thyroid issue, it's created a gut issue, okay? Or you could have like a gut issue that now has created a thyroid issue, okay? So yeah, I really wanted to get that across. And then I can look at these blood markers and look at things like the ferritin, the total protein, the hemoglobin, yeah, okay? Because hemoglobin, remember, it's like a soup. I need things like glycine, okay? You need things like B6, B12, B9, vitamin A, copper, ions, yeah, okay? It's not just down to iron. There's a soup that you need. Now, if I'm in a calorie deficit all the time, how do you think your soup is going to be? Your soup is going to be like water, yeah, okay? It's not going to be, so we're going to see low hemoglobin, we're going to see low total protein, we're going to see low total B12, okay? And it doesn't take rocket science, okay? Like things like your creatinine levels, because the precursor for creatinine is creatine, okay? That's methionine, that's glycine, arginine. You just don't have enough of the amino acids, okay? And I can just look at this and I go, reverse dieting. Okay, reverse dieting is something that this individual needs to do. This is the medicinal tool that I need to use. Yeah, okay, and essentially, so the whole thing with reverse dieting, okay, what we're going to slowly do, okay, and that can differ from the sexes, is we're going to slowly start to bring your calories up. Okay, and a lot of people will go, well, look, I'm sitting at like 1,100 calories, and from my experience, okay, a lot of people turn around and say to me, I don't count calories, and I go, okay, all right, let's see, yeah, okay, because it's actually programmed into our subconscious. That's one thing I can guarantee you. Like, you're watching sunrise. I definitely don't watch sunrise, yeah, okay, but you're watching sunrise, okay, and then basically Michelle Bridges gets on there, okay, and she says, well, for females it's 1,300 calories, and for men it's 1,800 calories. Okay? Okay, really? Okay, well, based on what? Okay, considering we have all different metabolization, okay, we have different types of gastrointestinal issues. One thing I can guarantee you, you've got intestinal permeability, you've got these types of complications, your base metabolic rate is higher. It's not lower, it is higher. Okay? And so if I actually inflict someone who's got those type of gastrointestinal issues, okay, and I drop their calories that low, they're even more malnourished. And so I'm going to have even a more negative effect on their sex hormones and their thyroid. Okay, yeah, I'm just telling you. Yeah, okay, and we're not taking into account, okay, how much your brain needs. Okay, like your brain's a greedy organ. It demands 100 grams of glucose. Okay, it doesn't mean it needs to come from direct glucose. It can be ketones, alternative fuel sources, okay? But it needs a lot of amino acids, it needs a lot of minerals, okay? It needs a lot of micronutrients, okay? So it's a greedy organ. Now, people will say to me, yeah, but back in the day, okay, 500 years ago, or whatever that might be, hunter-gatherer times, yeah, okay? We would have gone days without eating. Yeah, in hunter-gatherer times, okay? Like, this is not hunter-gatherer times. Like, we're way more stressed. We're exposed to more plastics, heavy metals, okay? More chemicals, more food additives, okay? Probably got more psychological stresses, yeah, okay? The stress load is huge, okay? And so we're also doing more with our brain, okay? Like, would anyone dispute that? Okay, a lot of people, they're working a 10, 12-hour day, they're studying at night, They've got to look after their family, okay? This puts a lot of pressure on your brain, so your brain needs more nourishment, okay? So people need to understand that. Like I basically say, and then we're not even taking into consideration stress, okay? So if you train really hard, there's a higher requirement on dietary cholesterol, okay? So like excessive training, okay, massively depletes cholesterol. Okay, so this will have a negative effect on things like your steroidal hormones. Okay, one hard training session will deplete your serum magnesium levels tenfold. Okay, so there's a huge depletion in the magnesium. Okay, so when I do work out someone's base metabolic rate, where I'm really working it out on lean muscle mass, okay, maybe it's waist measurements, yeah, okay, your weight, yeah, okay, then your energy expenditure. Okay, really, is that the correct formula? For me, it's not. Okay, because I've also got to add into that formula, which I do, okay, how much requirement does the brain need? For that particular individual, it's going to be different from person to person. Okay, and also, what's their requirement from a stress perspective, and also, what's their absorption and what is their metabolization like? Because if they've got these types of gastrointestinal issues, their base metabolic rate in that moment in time, that's why when people tell me, this is the base metabolic rate for this particular individual, and that's the way it is, I go, there's no way. There's no way that can be the way it is for the rest of their life with all these other factors. Okay? Because once I actually start to fix the absorption, their ability to uptake things like protein and lipids and glucose molecules more effectively, okay, then that actually means their requirement will come down because they're just a lot more efficient with food. They're a lot more efficient with food, okay? That's just one thing. And so, yes, I can use a catch Mercado, but I actually use all these other formulas, okay? It's a pretty unique system to really calculate where this individual's base metabolic rate is. I want to fix these problems and then bring it to where the base metabolic rate for that individual should actually be, okay? So that can be a problem when we're not really working out what the base metabolic rate is, okay, for the individual properly, okay? So that's one thing. And then when we start to reverse diet, a lot of people are going to say, well, I don't really have an appetite. I mean, of course, this is a sign of a down-regulated metabolism, okay, because one of the major hormones, okay, one of the major gut hormones produced in the stomach that you down-regulate, okay, is ghrelin, okay, because ghrelin is stimulated, strangely enough, by eating food, yeah, okay? And then ghrelin actually helps with the secretion of growth hormone, okay? And obviously growth hormone is going to help with things like repair and recovery and so forth, yeah, okay? And so, of course, they're going to have like down-regulated appetite, okay? And of course they don't feel like eating. And what I basically say to people that I'm dealing with, I said, that was an extreme reaction because you deliberately starved yourself for a very, very long period of time. Most of the people that I'm dealing with, general population, they're not doing competitions. They've been starving themselves for like 5 years. Okay? And their idea of feast is having a 6-pack of beers and 2 large pizzas. Okay? And so all the building blocks that I'm talking about, like helping like cholesterol and lipids and dietary fats and B5, from my recollection, beer and pizza are not extremely high in these nutrients that we actually require for these building blocks. And things like iodine, which is really high in sea vegetables and wild caught fish, and if you've got a lot of plastics and exposed to a lot of plastics and so forth, well, that's really negative for iodine. Okay, and so you're gonna have some real problems there. Okay, so their association is that, oh, okay, that's me eating more. Okay, well, you're just even more malnourished. You're just eating a whole heap of crap. Yeah, okay. I'm talking about getting it from, high macronutrient, micronutrient dense food. Yeah, okay? That's where you essentially need to get it from to essentially help with the sex hormones and stimulate the metabolism. Okay? That's where you really need to be getting it from. Yeah, okay? So I really want to stress this point, yeah, okay, that people can just be in like a calorie deficit and malnourished for such an extreme long period of time, yeah, okay? And so some of these things are going to be down-regulated. Of course, they're not going to feel like eating. It was an extreme action to get you to that point, and it requires an extreme reaction to get you out. Same thing with healing the gut. People go, Dave, your gut your gut protocols are extreme, yeah, okay? But what I would argue is what you did to your gut lining was extreme. Now I have to put a protocol that is extreme to get you out of this scenario. Okay, we're not going to fix it by you eating goji berries. Yeah, okay, so I want to make that clear. And the extreme reaction is reverse dieting. Okay, we're going to have to drive your calories up. Okay, and what you'll notice when you start to drive the calories up, yeah, okay, this is going to stimulate things like ghrelin. Yeah, okay, so the appetite. Okay, and that means you're going to be more anabolic. So you're going to be in a better fat burning state where you start to stimulate anabolic hormones like testosterone, growth hormone. This is where we want to be. Like I want someone to be, it's like we're searching for food. Okay, this is a great fat burning state to be in. Yeah, okay. Now for females, okay, because I do have to finish right on time. Maybe I'm going to continue talking about reverse dieting, okay? But with females, okay, we don't want to really increase the calories too quickly, okay? And so let's say they were sitting in about 1,100 calories, okay? I'd be increasing their calories by about 200 calories, okay? Because the thing is, if they're in a bit more of a fat storing state, okay, and then you go and jump from 1,100 calories to about 1,900 calories, okay, essentially the body perceived that it was in a starvation mode, and it's going to take the extra calories that you're consuming, it's going to store it. You're going to blow out like a balloon. But with men, it's a little bit different. Like you can actually increase their calories a little bit quicker. Yeah, okay. And so maybe I'm going to increase if they were sitting at about, let's say 1,500, okay, then I'm going to potentially jump them up to about 2,000. Now people are going to ask me questions about what should the breakdown be, and guess what I'm going to answer? It completely depends on the person. So people are telling you like it should be this amount of carbs, and so how can you say that? Yeah, okay, like you don't know what gastrointestinal issues are, and the reality is if you've got a particular proportion of carbohydrates, they've got underlying bacterial issues, and you're saying eat this amount of carbohydrates, all you've done is just increase the inflammatory load. You're increasing the food quantity, you've increased the inflammatory load, and you just actually created more problems in the reverse dieting process. Okay, so that's one thing that I want to make clear. Okay, and then potentially every 2 weeks for someone like females, I might increase their calories by about 200 calories until I get to a point where they start to plateau. And that doesn't mean we need, and I want to reiterate this, it doesn't mean we need to get to their base metabolic rate that I've calculated according to the individual. Okay, it might be that they start to plateau just before that, and then I hold them there for a period of time just to help with things like the sex hormones and the thyroid and so forth. Yeah, okay. And so then post that, okay, then I can actually use calorie deficit, okay, right type of training, okay, to elicit and actually help with aspects of fat burning. Okay, I think I'm going to have to continue with this. I know like there's a lot of questions. Okay, you know, I got emailed a whole heap of questions. I think I'm actually going to do another live on this, okay, because I could keep on talking, okay, but I actually do have to get to other consults. Yeah, okay, I'm really sorry, guys. Yeah, okay, I'd love to keep on talking, okay, but hopefully, like you're understanding where I'm coming from. Yeah, okay, and when it comes to increasing the calories, you also want to minimize the impact and the load, the volume of the food on the gastrointestinal lining. And I've got a formula for that, okay? Like certain foods that are really like high in carbohydrates and high in nourishment, like things like taro root, they're really high in carbs. So as I'm increasing the calories, if I use something like taro root, okay, I need a smaller amount of food. So I'm actually minimizing the volume, and I'm not putting as much stress on my pancreatic enzymes and my gastrointestinal lining. Okay, and the same thing, if I'm decreasing the calories, I want the person to have satiety, and then I'm going to use more things like pumpkin, turnip, because it's got antifungal properties, okay? But there's a higher volume, so they feel more satiety, rather than me using like they're going to have like 30 grams of sweet potato. Okay, well, good luck. Like that person's going to be starving, okay? And then most likely they're either going to snack, they're going to cheat, yeah, okay? Or they, you know, they're potentially not going to have that satiety feel, okay? But maybe I'm going to talk about that another time. I really wish I could get to a lot of questions, but guys, I am under the pump today, okay? But before I go, like, I really appreciate everyone listening to this, and I promise, okay, I'll definitely cover more to do with this, okay, because it's an interesting topic, yeah, okay? But I use it as a medicinal tool. One thing I just want to, I just want to send my love to my father-in-law, okay? Vic, I love you, yeah, okay? Thanks, guys. Take care.